Hello, dear friend. Welcome back. Last week, I have introduced you China economy, which is the background of Zhejiang economy, and some characteristics of Zhejiang economy, mainly equilibrium development, and also a general picture of Zhejiang economy today and its history. And now we'll discuss a very interesting characteristic of Zhejiang economy, industry cluster. After that, we'll go details about equilibrium development. We'll introduce you about a very interesting characteristic of Zhejiang economy, the characteristic towns and beautiful countryside. First, about industry cluster. Zhejiang economy is famous for its industry cluster. Industry cluster is quite popular all over the world. We know that in the United States of America, in San Francisco, so many information industries clustered there. And also in other areas, for example, the areas near Boston, biotechnology industries cluster there. In China, so many provinces also has industry cluster. For example, in Henan province, the electricity wires cluster near Zhengzhou, and smartphones and its accessories also clustered around Zhengzhou. And historically, in Hubei province, the trading companies, trading business clusters at Hankou. There is a famous place called Hanzhengjie. However, Zhejiang's industry cluster is quite different. If you visit Zhejiang province, visit the different areas of Zhejiang province, you will find each area has its own industry. Different areas has different industry cluster. And the industry cluster is a famous and interesting characteristic of Zhejiang economy. We can see that industry cluster supported each area of Zhejiang's economic growth and development. And the government win taxes. Of course, very importantly, the local residents earn more income from the industry cluster. And even some areas, the residents benefit from serving the cluster industry. For example, in Yiwu, a local resident rent their houses to the businessman. Their rental fees is higher than, according to my experience, is higher than 300,000 yuan per year. It's a great amount of money. About industry cluster. What is industry cluster? What's the difference from Zhejiang's cluster and the clusters of the other provinces? That's a very interesting question we need to find an answer. About the industry cluster, the definition given by some economists said that industry clusters means many firms. They produce the same or similar product or the product around the value chain. And those who provide the same or similar services, they operate in a close location. This location is not simply a village, simply a street, but a big area, even a whole city. So why industry cluster? Industry cluster obviously has its advantages. The first, let's see, to the consumer. So if you are a businessman, if you are a consumer, you want to buy something, then you go to the clustered areas. Then you will have more information first about the product and service. Based on this information, this relatively complete information, you can make a full comparison between different product and service before you are purchasing. Then you can finish your deals, your business deals, on single stop to the consumer, then to the producer and the suppliers. So for the producers and the suppliers, they gather together. They can win a scale of economy. Because according to what we have defined the industry cluster, the products along a value chain also cluster together. So if you are a producer and supplier, you doing your business in a single location, and you will easily find your suppliers and customers. And to the market, since so many producers, suppliers, consumers, they gather together, both sides, supply and demand, the two sides, they all face strong competitions. The suppliers and the producers trying to supply their customers with low price and high quality product. Well, the consumers, they also compete each other to win the top quality and low price product and service. So this kind of competition fostered innovation. And to the government, since they are facing the same product and service, they can provide the producers with professional service, especially to their product and service, to their production. So Zhejiang is famous for its industry cluster. And the local government, the producers, the consumers, all the stakeholders benefit from this kind of cluster. So that is an interest and a big characteristic for Zhejiang economy. In fact, Zhejiang is the forerunner of industrial cluster in China. In earlier 1980s, Wenzhou is famous for its shoe production. So even today, Wenzhou is still famous for its shoe production, but it's totally different. At the very beginning, they produce cheap shoes and sell the shoes to domestic market without their own brand. But today, Wenzhou shoe makers, they invest all over the world. They sell their product to all over the world by using their own brand. And EU is famous for its small commodities. It started from earlier 1980s. It's a place where service or trading service clustered. So I will give you some examples later. So I said just now, Zhejiang is different from the other provinces in China. The other provinces, yes, they have also their own industry cluster. However, Zhejiang is different because of all the areas in Zhejiang. They have their special industry cluster. According to the official report, Zhejiang's industrial cluster covered almost all the 31 statistical categories of manufacturing product, except petrochemical, nuclear energy, and tobacco. And many products from the cluster industry occupy a big market share in the world market. Many products. For example, I have here give you a picture of the socks. EU produce 8 billion pairs of socks, and Datang produce 6 billion pair of socks per year. So the two towns, cities production plus together, we have 14 billion pairs of shoes every year produced in a small area. We know in the world we have a total population of 14 billion. Have 70 billion. 7 billion. Which this means that the two towns or cities can supply each of the people in the world 2 pairs of socks per year. Besides that, EU produce and supplies 2/3 of the world's family Christmas ornaments, 40% of world electronic clock and watch, 70% of domestic ornament, 50% of domestic zippers, and 75% of domestic socks. So this is EU. You know, EU is a county or city belong to Jinhua area. It has only 1.5 million people. These people, 1/3 of them are from the rest of Zhejiang province, and 1/3 from the other provinces. Local EU people only takes 1/3 of the total population. Another example is Thai. Shenzhou produce 0.25 billion ties per year and supply 90% of domestic market and 70% of global market. So this is only 2 examples. In fact, according to the official statistics, there are so many small products, small commodities are made in Zhejiang. And for Zhejiang businessmen, even today, they pay attention to qualities. But it's a pity there are few international brands. Therefore, they have a tiny profit margin. They win profit by the amount they produce and sales. For example, a tea stick we use every day after dinner. One producer in Yiwu, he export many cubic meters per year. For the hat we wear in the winter, one producer export so many containers. So they win by amount they export. So select examples of industrial cluster. In Zhejiang province, we have 88 counties, and 80 of them have industry cluster. More than 800 different products, and the regional economic development is critically supported by the cluster industry and products around its supply chains. For example, in Yiwu is famous for its small commodity trading and production. But since 2012, Yiwu built another commodity city. They called it Production Materials Commodity City. Supply machines, equipment to those consumer product production. And also, Yiwu has also introduced logistic service industry. And for so many different counties in Zhejiang province, I give you a list here. Ningbo, the cluster products include electric machines, metal products, plastic products, and so many. Then Wenzhou is famous for its shoe and leather products, costume, and so many others. Shaoxing, weaving, printing and dyeing, silk weaving, hardwares. Jiaxing, leathers, textiles, chemical fiber, costume, wood floors. Hangzhou, hardware machines, pulp and paper, chemical fiber, household chemicals, information service, e-business. Taizhou, pump, machines, shoes, caps, and costumes, auto and motorcycle accessories, electric machinery, valve. Huzhou, industrial batteries, children's garments. Lishui, micro motors, agricultural product processing, fiberboard. Qizhou, construction materials, ball bearings, voltage transformers. So you can see different areas, they have different industry cluster. And these gathered plus together, they covered a large scale of the consumer and producers' product. For Zhejiang economy, the industrial cluster does not only include the third industry, manufacturing, production, but also Zhejiang is famous for its service industry cluster, trading, logistics. The trading business cluster of consumer product. So Zhejiang is famous for its Yiwu small commodity city or China commodity city. Haining is famous for its leather product, and Yongkang is famous for its hardware product trading. Shaoxing is famous for textile product trading. And of all the trading business clusters, Yiwu, of course, is the most famous. So you can see this picture. So I take this picture at the Terminal 1 of GFK in 2020. So you can see its advertisement has published here in the United States. So I think the advertising fee is quite expensive. However, EU pay for the advertisement to advertise its trading service. So if you go to Zhejiang, if you're a businessman, if you arrive at Xiaoshan International Airport, you will find there are shuttles directly from the airport to Yiwu. And when you onboard the shuttle, you will find almost all the passengers are international passengers. They go to Yiwu directly after they get down from the airplane. Yiwu, as you know, I always mentioned Yiwu because I used to be a high-rank officer there. Yiwu market is quite big, a huge market. It occupies a large square meters. And it has so many booths. How many? 75,000 booths. And these booths, one booth means one business with one businessman. And these booths, these 75,000 booths, hired 210,000 employees. The daily visitors visit these booths more than 210,000. And in this city, the trading items, more than 1.7 million, different goods, mainly consumer goods, different. And these goods export to 219 countries or regions. We can measure the export of its huge export by the containers export per year. Average, there are 570,000 standard container transport the cargoes from Yiwu to Ningbo port or Shanghai port, or today by some of them by continental trains start from Yiwu and ended at Amsterdam. Besides the domestic businessman, there are more than 3,000 foreign firms. They built or have their representatives or branches of subsidiaries in Yiwu. And the resident of foreigners every day more than 13,000. So it's very interesting. You will visit EU, you will onboard the bus. You will find the bus use bilingual. And on the passengers on the bus always have different colored people from the foreign countries. And if you go to the urban areas, there is a delicious food street. You will also find so many foreign businessmen. They open a restaurant. Even you can find foreigners. They stand along the street using a bench to sell the accessories of smartphone, the covers, the shells. And in 2019, the consumer dues amount was 177 billion yuan. The EU businessman said that we will buying globally and selling globally. So if you will want to do your business, come to EU. So you can visit the official website of CCC Group at www.cccgroup.com.cn. There is a saying that at EU market, there is nothing you can't find and purchase, and always something beyond your image. So EU commodity city, I show you some pictures. So CCC, our China Commodity City, is only one market in EU city, but it's the biggest one. It covers 2 square kilometers. And the road around this city, CCC, is 7.5 kilometer long. You can see this picture. The road around CCC is 7.4 kilometer. This is the picture I copied from Baidu Ditu. Sorry. And this is the satellite picture. You can see the buildings, in fact, is a single building. They connected together. And the street, in fact, they go through the building. In other words, when you enter the building by every of the doors, they have hundreds of doors. You can visit all the booths without go outside. This is a picture about the building. You can see they are connected together. There is a calculation. Suppose you work 8 hours per day, and you work 5 days per week. 75,000 booths means that it will take you 1 year and 10 months, or in other words, 22 months to visit all of the booths if you stay 3 minutes at each booth. Just the image. Besides EU, there are many cities, they have trading business cluster. I said just now, Haining, leather product city. Haining is a city between Shanghai and Hangzhou. So businessmen produce and sell leather product, and their there are accessories cluster here. Shaoxing, so this picture is a Shaoxing light textile product city. And this is Haining leather product city. And Yunkang, its trading cluster, business cluster is hardware trading. So that's a service industry, trading business. Another service industry is logistic. Yiwu, according to the general report, Yiwu has the biggest express delivery amount in China. The biggest. Just imagine Yiwu is a city under Jinhua administration. It's a county. However, it's the biggest express delivery amount in China. Of course, also in the world. From January to September 2020, the order amount is 5.972 billion orders. So the order is bigger. The order amount is bigger than Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen. And besides the usage of logistics service, Zhejiang is also the orange place of Chinese famous express service companies. The logistics service provider are clustered in Tonglu County. Tonglu County generated Yuantong, Zhongtong, Shentong, and Renda. These four suppliers, they occupied 70% of Chinese domestic express service market. You can see here the Shentong Express, Zhongtong, Yuantong, Renda, all the four originated from Tonglu County. There another big company, a giant company, Alibaba, also provide logistics service. Its name is Cainiao. So you can see trading and logistics, these service industry also cluster in different areas of Zhejiang. So we will explain more about the industrial cluster of the second and the third industry in Zhejiang. And the next topic will go to the town and rural community development. In Zhejiang, we call it a characteristic town and beautiful countryside. From the industry cluster, we can find in Zhejiang province, the cluster industry is not only the second industry or manufacturing industry, but also service industry, mainly trading service and logistics service. So this kind of industry cluster, in fact, also belongs to equilibrium development, industrial equilibrium development. So we continue our topic about equilibrium development. Let's see the vertical equilibrium development. So we know that small towns and the countryside are at the fundamental levels. So generally, when we're talking about the developing countries' development, we mainly focus on the city in the urban areas. However, in Zhejiang province, it's a little different. Zhejiang's equilibrium economic development not only embodied in industrial equilibrium, regional equilibrium, but also vertically from the urban areas to rural areas, from city to countryside. So in Zhejiang province, the vertical equilibrium development is also strong. So in Zhejiang province, we called the town levels, the characteristic towns. Some areas they call it village, but in fact this village equals to town. So characteristic town was first announced at Hangzhou in 2014. It, in fact, is another kind of business cluster. However, it's different from what we have discussed just now. Just now, what we discussed, the cluster, they belong to a bureaucratic level. There are government functional department service for the cluster. But for the town level and village level or countryside level, it's a little different. So there is no or fewer government department, only government service department provide information, provide a platform. So generally, the basic or fundamental level of cluster, business cluster, is embodied in the characteristic town and beautiful countryside. They focus on a certain industry or a certain kind of product. Compared with the large-scale cluster, they have not such a long production line or the product along the value chain. They have only specific product. And this kind of product or service are based on a certain geographic locations. So, the town and rural community development, the first we see the characteristic towns. The production of focused products and service, they contribute a lot to local GDP and employment. So even there is no or fewer government functional department, however, this business also belong to a certain government or local government. So they contribute to the local GDP, local taxes, fiscal income, and employment. In Taizhou, we have a Zhuang town. In 2019, it produced 18 billion yuan products related to drones and export the drones to all over the world, mainly civil drones, not military or advanced drones. In Jiande, we have aero towns. And in 2018, its production is 1.73 billion yuan. In this small town, the registered enterprises is 773. And Hangzhou near Hangzhou, there is a dream town that's very famous, the dream town. So which means the entrepreneurs, young people, so they can come here to realize their dream. At Hangzhou, in 2013, the production is 7 billion yuan. And in this dream town, in 2019, there are 1,080 ventures registered here. At Hangzhou, we still have another very famous characteristic town. Its name is Cloud Town. And its production in 2019 is 30 billion yuan. And in this small town, there are 1,339 enterprises. So from the name of the town, Cloud Town, you can imagine that this town clustered mainly information industry companies or businesses related to information industry or information technology, mainly cloud. So for this town, a very famous university, Xihu University, located here. Xihu University is a civil university founded by the boss of Alibaba, and a very famous scientist in China, Xi Gong, is the president of this university. And Alibaba is famous for its cloud service. Its subsidiary AliCloud are also located here. And for the characteristic towns, we can summarize that these towns covered a large range of business, from manufacture to service, from high-tech to tourist. Here I give you a list. Zhejiang province has 193 characteristic towns. Their business distributed in high-tech equipment, environmental protection products, healthy products, financial service, historical resort, tourism, fashion, and digital business. This is the first. These characteristic towns, their business covered a big range of different business, from the third to the second industries, from general product and service to high-tech service. And second, these characteristic towns, they are all located all over Zhejiang province. So this fact also tells us about the regional equilibrium development in Zhejiang province. For the fundamental levels, industrial cluster, you can see here the list. All the areas in Zhejiang province has characteristic towns. Hangzhou has 42, and Huzhou 15. And you can see the Zhoushan has a small finger, but it still has 4. And you know Zhoushan is a small area in Zhejiang province. So how can we evaluate these characteristic towns? So in my opinion, these small towns, in fact, they are not a bureaucratic level in the administration pyramid. They are more like platforms or business incubators. So to build this to develop these small towns, the local government they provide physical and financial encouragement policies to promote and encourage the small business to reside in the small town. This is the first policies. The policies are physical policies and financial policies. For example, the physical policies, so if you entered or build your business here in the small town, you will be waived some taxes. And the financial policies, the mutual fund introduced by the government can provide you with your initial capitals to start your business. And second, the local government, they built the fundamental facilities. The facilities are ready to use for the business, such as the road, the electricity supply, the power, water, and gas supply are ready for the business to use. You just came here to start your business. The third, the communities, they provide residency service, logistics service, and real services. So the businessmen or employees, when they enter the small town, they can have their own dorms, their own apartment, even their own houses. They can buy it. They can also, most of them, for the young people, they rent it. And if they married, they have a child, they can have real service in the community, in the small town. And the fourth, the initial investment from the government, from the mutual fund, from the other investors are ready. Besides that, lastly, the local government introduced the financial, commercial, and health services to residents in the small town. Therefore, the small town, they are adult or mature community for business and business service and the residents' everyday service. This platform. In this platform, you can start your business, start your venture, and therefore, the small town, in fact, is a business incubator. This is the small town level. In fact, let's go downward along the vertical line. Let's see the countryside. Beautiful countryside. In Zhejiang province, it's developed areas. So developed areas means that as the city areas become larger and larger, the formerly rural areas near the big city are merged into the city as the urbanization progressing. For example, most of the business operating in and their employees also live in the suburb around the big cities at Hangzhou, Ningbo, and Yiwu. So you can see in these developed cities, developed areas, there's no difference between urban and rural areas. The businessmen, when they need to have a commercial negotiation, they went to the urban areas, go to the restaurant, go to cafeterias to meet their business partner, business competitors. But when they need to produce their product, they always build their plant, build their factory in the rural areas, and also they live in the rural areas where They have fresh air, they have blue sky, and a silent night. In the far countryside, these areas far away from the big city, the real rural areas are also developed fast in Zhejiang. And the community members, they are formerly the farmers. They focus on agricultural production and food processing, handicraft, resort, and tourism business. So that's in the real rural areas. So that's different from the rural areas close to big city. So this is another very sharp characteristic. The area in the far countryside also developed quite well. This is a vertical equilibrium development. So this picture, you can see there's a blue sky, green mountain. This is Yucun, located at Anji, Huzhou area. So this is a village, a small village. It's very beautiful. Every year, the village attracts so many tourists. They come here to have their holidays, their vacations. So they have contributed to the tourism development in the small town, small village. So this small countryside, this village is famous in China because President Xi has visited here for several times, and he said his famous saying, the green mountain and clean water means wealth. So you can see it's carved on the stone. So for town and rural community development, when we talk about the beautiful countryside, we can find that according to the statistical report, after the beautiful countryside has building, the local residents' income keeps increasing. In fact, in Zhejiang province, the farmers, today is the resident of a beautiful countryside, they live a very happy life. Their income keeps increasing. They have more relaxed time. And in this beautiful countryside, the fundamental facilities, such as transportation, water supply, telecommunication, energy and gas supply, drainage, education, hospital, and health service, are compared with the urban areas. So it's no difference from the city. And besides that, in the countryside, they have top quality natural environment. They have blue sky, green mountain, and clean water. And they live a high degree of happiness life. So that's the vertical level, the fundamental level. You can see the village and the towns are also well developed. So that's about the vertical equilibrium development. From city to the towns to the village, they develop almost equally. Again, as the characteristic towns, The beautiful countryside also has the features. The first is they covered a wide range of business. The second is that they are distributed all over Zhejiang province. You can see here the beautiful countryside. In 2018, the provincial government of Zhejiang named 200 rural communities as elite village. So for the 200 elite village, each of them has unforgettable business operations in the beautiful countryside environment. You can see here, it's distributed all over Zhejiang provinces. So Taizhou has the biggest number, 41, but all the areas around Zhejiang has the elite village. And this picture I show you is a village famous for its resort. It's near Hangzhou. So the next about Zhejiang's equilibrium development is its internal and external development. So we have discussed the internal as the first question just now, and here we mainly discuss about its external, its export. I give you the statistical report here of import and export and its growth rate, and I separate export from import and export. And also I separate general export. From the figures you can see that for Zhejiang province from 1992, at that time the import and export amount is quite small. But even for this quite small amount, export take a big ratio. The percentage is 72. And as the external economic developing, the growth rate you can see for Zhejiang province at the very beginning of 1990s, the growth rate has 2 digits. The highest growth rate is 2000. It's 52. And you can also see the export with to general. Which means how the percentage of general export in export. Zhejiang for so many years, it's almost 30 years, is around 80. So Zhejiang's export has shown us a sharp increase, just like a volcano eruption. Its export in 1978 is only $70 million US, only 0.72% of China, less than 1%. But today, the percentage is 13.4%. A remarkable achievement. Again, I will show you this picture. I have shown you this picture last week, and this picture tell us more about Zhejiang's export. So again, we focus on the percentage of general export compared with the other developed provinces in China. So mainly we compared with Guangdong and Jiangsu. So you can see also who export more in Zhejiang province and in the other two provinces. So these two figures tell us a lot of the export business about the three provinces. So let's summary about Zhejiang's export. So Zhejiang's export, this structure is different from the national average structure and also different from the other leading provinces. Zhejiang's export mainly consists of general export. Most years around 80%. Compared with Guangdong and Shandong province, which two provinces, their percentage of general export is 50%. And this high percentage of general export tell us that Zhejiang is selling its own product to the world market, its own products. The Zhejiang businessmen, they organize the production of the product. Of course, some by OEM. The foreign businessmen, they provide their brand, just a brand, and their package design, and ask the Zhejiang producers to produce for them. And the Zhejiang businessman can negotiate with the foreign businessman about the price. Well, Guangdong and Shandong province, they have more joint ventures. The joint ventures import parts and accessories of the final products and export the final products to the world market. Leave processing fees to local communities. No or less profit. That's different. That's different. So you can just imagine at the very beginning, since 1978, when China first opened the doors, because Guangdong province is close to Hong Kong. So there are so many Hong Kong businessmen, they invest in Guangdong. Most of the investments are focused on the production. They provide technology, they imported the materials, parts, accessories from all over the world. Just ask Guangdong to produce them as a final product. Guangdong do not need to sell the product, and the investors from Hong Kong has the responsibility to sell the product to the world market. To Guangdong, it's export. And the same story happens in Jiangsu province. Jiangsu near Suzhou and Wuxi. There are so many international brands. They produce their product here and supply all over the world market. So what do they left to Guangdong province, to Zhejiang, and to Jiangsu province? Yes, tax. Yes, salary. Yes, processing fees. But how about profit? So we said that Zhejiang economy is a miracle. It's a miracle. You can just remember the figures I highlighted in my lecture. It's a land area, 1.1% of China. Its population, its GDP, and its export. So this is the absolute percentage today. We can also give you, I also give you some historical data. For example, the export. So in 1978, Zhejiang export only 70 billion US dollar. And the percentage is less than 1%. But today is around 14%. So that's a miracle. And the miracle also can embody it in the equilibrium development. The area equilibrium, the industrial equilibrium, the vertical equilibrium, and internal and external equilibrium. So a general picture of Zhejiang economy can be drawn like this. Fast growth province in China since 1978. From a very small percentage, it's around 3%, to today's 60.29%. It's doubled. Fast growth. The fast growth not only embodied in GDP growth, but also GDP per capita, but also disposable income, also the government revenue from taxes. Second, Zhejiang is a developed area in China according to the World Bank's standard of to divide different development levels. Zhejiang's GDP per capita is higher than the level to mark high-income countries. And Zhejiang is an important economic power in national economic development. A very important economic power. So since you can see from my lecture, there are so many products made in Zhejiang, so many service providers in Zhejiang. These products supply the world market as well as the domestic market. And the Zhejiang businessmen then invest all over China. They invest even all over the world. So they contribute more to the national economic development. And Zhejiang is a province which is highly dependent on global market. So compared with the other provinces, since Zhejiang's export is mainly consists of general export, they need the world market to sell their product. They're highly dependent on global market. And Zhejiang is a province where the private sector play a very important and active roles. We know that 96% of Zhejiang's firms are privately owned. There are so many famous companies. They are private companies. And also, Zhejiang is an economy with modern industrial structure. Modern, we said that they have a big percentage of service industry, while a small percentage of the first industry. And most importantly, Zhejiang's development is equilibrium. The equilibrium has 4 aspects: regional, quite different from the other provinces, where they have developed areas and less developed areas and developing areas. For Zhejiang province, all the regions, they almost equally developed. The second is industry equilibrium development. From the manufacturing to trading to logistics. And the third equilibrium development is internal and external development. They are also balanced. Together with the high growth rate of GDP growth, the foreign trade also grows. They parallelly grows. Then the fourth is vertical equilibrium development. From the city to the town to the countryside, they are equilibrium developed. That's a picture about Zhejiang. I said it's a miracle. It's a miracle. I have used some statistic data to show you about this miracle. Then we will try to explain this miracle. Zhejiang economy is a miracle. It's not only Mr. Hui said so. There's so many researchers, they summarize Zhejiang economy as a miracle. Why Zhejiang miracle? It in fact is an academic question. There are a lot of explanations. For example, they explain this miracle as traditional reasons. They attribute the miracle to policies, government policy reasons, to the cultural reasons. I think they all have their reasons. According to my understanding, there are several explanations, several reasons can explain this miracle. The first is resource allocation. Excuse me, resource constraint. As I had shown you in my lecture, Zhejiang has fewer land. A small land, only 1.1% of China's total land area. Quite a few natural resources. So the constraint of natural resources, in fact, limited an area's development, especially in the earlier history. And besides that, as China has a strong power central government, the government investment is also a very, very important resources to development. Since Zhejiang is a coast province. Historically, from Ming Dynasty to Qing Dynasty, the two dynasties closed China's wall to the world. All the two dynasties, they have fewer investment in the coastal provinces, not only Zhejiang province, but also Fujian province and Guangdong province. So a small land area, limited natural resources, and limited government investment. This forces the individuals and firms. They have to explore the resources outside the province. They have to explore the market in the outside world. This is the first resource constraint. They push the individuals and the firms to the outside world to try to explore opportunity to survive, to develop. The second is its location, its coastal location. I said just now, since the coastal location bring Zhejiang province disadvantages in the history in Qing Dynasty and Ming Dynasty, even in modern government before 1978. However, this coastal location provides convenience to Zhejiang provinces, to the businessman, to the overseas market. Yes, they have advantages. In my lecture, I have introduced you the Hanghui Gudao. It's because of the coast location. Therefore, the inner provinces, they will use the port to distribute their goods to the other areas of China. And since the resource constraint has a long history, and the individuals and firms, they have a long time to explore the outside resource and opportunities. So in Zhejiang province, the businessmen, they have a business traditions for the people to explore opportunities outside of the world. And the third is economic reformation policies. So for economic reformation policy, as I discussed in my lecture, there are mainly two aspects. The first is ownership. After 1978, private ownership is respected, and market distribution mechanism is introduced. So this kind of reformation policy released business potentials. And formally, you have potential. However, this potential is covered, is constrained by the resource, by the geographic location. And the economic reformation policy release these potentials by removing the constraint of natural as well as from the system. And the open door policy guides these potentials to domestic market and international market. Open door policy. I said just now, open door. It reverts the closed door policy. historically, the coastal areas are rare areas, but today they have their advantages. And the fourth reason I can see is that in Zhejiang province, compared with the other provinces, especially the inland provinces, it has a relatively fair and a clarified commercial environment. This kind of commercial environment generates more certainty for business and competition. So in China, the traditional culture is a high context culture. It's different from the Western countries. For the businessman, it's difficult to make an appointment, a specified appointment. Therefore, there's always exists uncertainty. But here in Zhejiang province, this kind of fair and clarified commercial environment generates more certainty for business and competition. And also, the government play a very important role in the commercial environment. Therefore, incubating businesses. I can give you some examples for this kind of environment. The first is Xie Gaohua, the mayor of Yiwu in 1980s. At that time, China is transformed from a central planned economy to a mixed economy. At the fundamental level, at the city level, the government do not know which kind of business is legal, which is illegal. Since Yiwu has more hills and mountains, almost no farmable land, they must do business. But at that time, doing business is illegal. When one lady, he trying to buy some shirt from a factory and trying to sell them to the near countries. She was caught and was told that was illegal. But Mr. Xie Gaohua said that, yes, I can issue a certification. You can go to the other countries to do your business. If you are caught again, just show them my certification. And by the support from the government, Yiwu is the first country to build a commercial market to foster the trading business. And also in Hangzhou, there are so many government officers and a government function department. It's quite easy for the businessman to get the certifications for their business. And the Hangzhou government said that for businessman, one time to my office is enough. That's okay. So that will increase the efficiencies. And since the resource constraint and its cost location and the economic reformation policy, open door policy, and the government encouragement start early in Zhejiang province. So Zhejiang businessmen and firms, they grow up by participating international earlier than those from inner provinces. Yes, I said in 1978, Zhejiang has a very small export amount, less than 1% in China. But you should understand that at that time, China's export were totally finished by state-owned export companies. They are not owned by private businessmen. They are public companies. Well, Zhejiang province has fewer government investment companies. And the private sectors are forbidden to export product. So, after that, as the policy developing, progressing, and more Zhejiang businessmen, they participate in international competition, and earlier than the other inner provinces. That's why they accumulated experiences, they accumulated market, and they accumulated customer resources, and finally they occupy market shares. And then the next explanation is industrial cluster. Industrial cluster in Zhejiang is different from the other provinces. Generally speaking, industrial cluster creates a scale economy as well as strong competition, which pushes the firms to innovate continuously for sustainable development. But why? In the other provinces, they have also industrial cluster. Why Zhejiang succeed? Why Zhejiang succeed? So we can combine the explanations above. Zhejiang, in fact, Zhejiang's industrial cluster also pay a high cost for development. For example, at the very beginning, Wenzhou's shoes and belts, they try to cut their cost and to sell a lower price. Therefore, they can have a large sales amount. However, to cut the cost, they use the inferior materials. And the inferior materials lead to poor quality. The shoes can use only, for example, only 1 month. The belt use only 2 months. Poor quality. There is a joke. About 20 years ago, there's a high-rank central government officer. He visited Wenzhou, and the Zhejiang provincial government officers accompanied this high-rank officer to Wenzhou, and said that, yes, shoes made in Wenzhou is no problem, only 5 yuan per share, and the belt is only 5 yuan. You can buy one. To support the local factories, local businessmen, the high-rank officer from the central government buy a belt, 5 yuan. Then, after 1 year, the high-rank officer meet the accompanied local officer again. The local officer asked the high-rank officer, how about the belt you buy in Zhejiang province. The high-rank officer said, just a hiccup, it broke to two pieces. So you can see at that time, that's a poor fame for Zhejiang, made in Zhejiang, for the shoes made in Wenzhou. However, the Wenzhou businessman, they summarize their failure, and they make up their mind to make top quality product. Then 1 year, they collect all the inferior product at Wulin Square and burnt the shoes and the belts. And after that, the businessmen, they try to build their own brand, and they try their best to increase the quality of their products. And today, shoes made in Zhejiang is famous all over the world. You can see the Wenzhou shoe cities in Spain, in Paris, and in some other European countries. So the earlier international competitions creating a developing advantages. This kind of advantages help Zhejiang to attract more commercial investment and human resources. So it's a kind of halo effect. Since you are developed areas, you have so many advantages. Therefore, the businessmen from other provinces, from the other countries, they go to Zhejiang, they go to the areas of Zhejiang to explore the business opportunities. And also, graduations from the university and the gift talents from the other provinces, they also go to Zhejiang to explore the opportunities. Therefore, to win more monies, to have a better life. So that's a kind of explanation for Zhejiang miracle. But it cannot be it could not be a full explanation. I hope, my friend, you can help us to explain this kind of miracle. And most importantly, I would be very glad to ask you to join the miracle, to develop this miracle. So, I have made my lecture today. I have finished my lecture today about Zhejiang economy. So, a small summary. In my lecture, I introduce China economy first, because China economy is the background of Zhejiang economy, and Zhejiang economy is an important part of China economy. When I introduce China economy, I mainly follow the following rules. GDP. GDP can describe you a full picture. Then the industrial structure. The industrial structure can give you a picture about its development levels, and also the internal and external economic operation. Then we go to Zhejiang economy. We follow the same route, the same method. I first give you a general picture by using GDP, by using disposable income, GDP per capita, using industrial structure, using FDI inflow using import and export. The figures tell you the truth. Then a brief history, especially economic history, economic thinkers, economic events, help you to understand Zhejiang's economic development route. Then I mainly focus on Zhejiang economy's characteristics. The characteristics are mainly equilibrium development. The equilibrium development have 4 aspects. The first is regional equilibrium development, regional, different from other provinces. The second is industrial equilibrium development, the manufacturing industry and the service industry. And the third is internal and external equilibrium development. Especially for Zhejiang province, its external economic operations performs quite well. It's from no less than 1% of China to more than 13% of China. Then the vertical equilibrium, from city to small town to rural areas. Then I said that Zhejiang economy is a miracle. It's a miracle. And I try to explain a miracle. So for me, at the end of my lecture, I will say that welcome to Zhejiang. Why? You can have more opportunities and you can explore these opportunities. The opportunities, you can see that they are in my lecture. Zhejiang has a high development level, a high disposable income. Well, Zhejiang has 6 million private firms. And these firms, for them to develop, they need experts. They need gifted talents like you. They need graduate students, especially in the major of technology, in the major of international trade, to help them to explore the opportunities, to explore the market. There are so many opportunities in Zhejiang province, and you can take advantage of these opportunities at a relatively lower cost. So it's a convenience here in Zhejiang. You can do the same thing at a lower cost of money and cost of time. And you can have a relatively higher income or to earn more profit. And finally, you can live a better quality and an easy life. So for my boss, Zhejiang University of Science and Technology is located at Hangzhou. And for my university, we recruit international students from 2008, I think it's 2008. In my school, a School of Business, School of Economics and Management, we have 2 majors, international trade and international business. So if you have interest in my university, in my school, you can visit the website listed here. You can also send an email to the emails I list here. So I hope I can meet you in the future at Hangzhou at Zhejiang University of Science and Technology. Thank you. Bye-bye.